This is a Septarian Nodule, and today we're going to be transforming it into what I think will be one of our most beautiful D20s yet. This particular piece has some absolutely gorgeous natural patterns with distinctive veins of yellow calcite against a rich brown and tan matrix. I've been wanting to work with this particular stone for quite a while now, and I'm really excited to finally get the chance. But before we can do any cutting, we need to get this stone mounted securely on a dot. Given the size of this piece, a strong bond is going to be absolutely crucial, so we're going to be using our trusty Loctite 5-minute epoxy resin. While that's curing, let's talk a little bit about this fascinating material. Septarian concretions, also called Septarian nodules, are a unique geological formation characterized by their striking cracked patterns. These formations are composed of a combination of materials like calcite, aragonite, barite, and sometimes pyrite encased in a hard outer layer of limestone. The name Septarian comes from the Latin word septum, meaning partition or dividing wall, referring to the distinctive separation of the different minerals that comprise the stone. The formation process of these stones is absolutely fascinating. They originate in marine environments where an organic nucleus, like a deceased marine creature or shell, gets enveloped by sediment, setting the stage for a concretion formation. Over millions of years, calcium carbonate present in the water precipitates around this organic core, cementing the surrounding sediment, forming a hard nodule. As these nodules lose moisture or experience shifts in pressure, they develop a network of cracks. Mineral-laden groundwater seeps into these newly created spaces and crystallizes, giving us the beautiful patterns that we see today. For this particular die, we're going to go with the classic standard cut. I really want the natural beauty and texture of this stone to be the star of the show, and I feel like a standard cut will provide the perfect framing for those incredible patterns without drawing focus away from the stone itself. For this project, we're going to start off with our tried and true grit progression. We'll start with our 120 grit diamond topper lap to roughen the basic shape and remove the bulk of the material. From there, we'll move to a 240 grit to refine the faces and cut through the damage caused by the 120. Then we'll progress to 600 grit and bring all the faces to their final locations, and then 3000 grit for pre-polish. The polishing is going to be a bit of a mystery. We're just going to have to experiment a bit when we get to that stage. The main challenge I'm anticipating with this piece is going to be the natural texture. Septarian stones have lots of natural pitting and variations in the surface, so it can be a bit tricky to work with. But I have a plan for that, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. So let's get cutting. Alright, so here we are with our first rough cuts on the 120 grit, and already we can start to see some of those beautiful patterns emerge. We've still got a long way to go, but we can start to see the die coming into shape. So we just removed a lot of material from the stone, so it's time to take a quick cleanup before moving on. Working with any stone generates dust, but with a piece this large, there's even more to manage. I always wear a full respirator and run my HEPA 14 filter through the entire cutting process, but it's equally as important that we keep our workspace clean between grits. This protects our health by preventing dust from spreading and potentially breathing it down the line, and it also helps prevent contamination of our finer laps. Even tiny specks of this coarse dust ending up on our polishing laps could cause some really nasty scratches that could potentially set us back dozens of hours. A few minutes of cleaning now is definitely worth preventing that risk. Now, I know I harp on and on about this in each of my videos, but I really can't understate the importance of protecting your health in these hobbies. Breathing stone dust like this can lead to silicosis, which is a completely incurable lung disease that is absolutely devastating. Wearing a respirator all day sucks, but at least I can take it off and breathe normally when I'm done. Adding a little extra cleaning time and dealing with a little discomfort while working is well worth it to prevent a lifetime of lung disease down the line. Now we're moving on to our 240 grit to smooth things out and get closer to our final locations. Alright, so we just finished our 240 grit work, and before we move to our 600, I wanted to address something I mentioned earlier. As you can see, there's quite a bit of natural texture in this stone. Lots of small pits and variations that are completely natural to the stone itself. The brown lines of aragonite are holding up really well to the cutting, but they do have a fairly pitted texture. And then between the tan bentonite, we get these really beautiful veins of barite, but they're ending up a bit recessed from the rest of the stone. You can see it a lot better with this vein here. When we're cutting, these pieces are actually chipping out rather than grinding away, and that's causing it to be a little bit recessed back. And here you can see a bit more of that aragonite pitting across the stone. And then we have the yellow calcite. This forms in much larger and defined crystals, but that often leads to gaps between them, like little geode pockets like this one. Or this one over here. These textures are throughout the entire stone, so there's no possible way we'd be able to just cut past them. So we're going to take a moment here to solidify and strengthen them instead and see if we can fill in a bit of those gaps. For this, we're going to be using our cyanoacrylate glue. This has the consistency of water, and it works through a capillary action that will seep deep into all of the tiny cracks and pits, hardening them and creating a more stable surface to work with. The great thing about this particular glue is that it cures completely clear and polishes up really well, so it won't detract from the natural beauty of the stone. I'm going to work it into all of the major gaps and also give it a thin skim coat over the entire surface of each facet. Now, not all of this will stay through the entire process. Much of it will get pulled out or polished away as we continue through our grits, but what does remain will help stabilize the stone and fill in some of the deeper pits. The key here is that we're not trying to create a perfectly smooth glass-like surface, but rather help cement everything in place and add some additional strength to all of the faces. I honestly feel that some of that natural texture showing through will actually add a lot of character and let the stone's texture kind of speak for itself. Alright, so here's our finished 600 grit, and I'm really pleased with how the stabilization worked. Here we can see some of the final patterns that we'll have on this die, and I'm incredibly excited to see how it finishes up. Now on to 3000 for pre-polish. Here's our 3000 grit pre-polish, and the stone is really coming to life. The contrast between the different minerals is so cool to finally see, and we're starting to get some of that beautiful reflectivity across the entire stone. Now, I'm not really sure how the polish is going to go with all the different minerals, but we're going to start off with some Lind A, or alumina oxide, on our homemade leather lap. I know this works well with calcite and the aragonite, which is also just a different type of calcite, but we'll just have to see with the other minerals. So good news, somehow it all polished up beautifully on the same pass. I was absolutely not expecting that, and it turned out incredible. Now we're going to transfer the dop to the other side using our transfer jig and some more epoxy resin, then we'll repeat the entire cutting process for the second half. From there, we'll cut out numbering masks on our CNC machine, sandblast the numbers in, paint them, and we'll be all finished up. If you're enjoying watching this die come to life, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons below. It only takes a second and it really does help me out. Your support helps me to continue making more Dyson videos like this. If you're looking for more ways to help support the channel, consider checking out my Patreon. You'll get exclusive early access to ad-free videos, see behind-the-scenes looks at what I'm currently working on, have a say in future video topics and stones, join in monthly Q&As, and even get your hands on exclusive monthly discounts and full ttrpg character supplements based on the stories and dice we create here. Your support there will make a huge difference to help me dedicate more time to creating dice and videos like this. Now, back to the video. When I look at this die, I imagine Wynn as she crouches at the forest edge, her scales the color of weathered stone, mottled browns and tans that blend with the earth beneath her feet. Strapped to her small cobalt frame rests a dragon's egg, its shell bearing the same golden veins that once decorated the cavern walls of her lost home. Her two brothers huddle close, their amber eyes reflecting the distant firelights of human settlements spread across the valley below like fallen stars. Beyond the villages and the stone keep that guards the mountain pass, the legendary Dragonlands wait somewhere past the mist-shrouded peaks of the Hilfrad Thorns. The egg stirs gently against her back, the youngling inside growing restless, and Wynn tightens her grips with calloused hands that have learned to carry hope wrapped in a fragile shell. Those hands once traced the crystalline veins that threaded through their great dragon's cavern home, listening as she spun tales of stone that grew beautiful through breaking. The ancient brass dragon would press her great claw to the golden crystal seams and speak of cracks that welcomed healing, of strength that came not from perfection, but from surviving fracture. In the flickering warmth of their sanctuary, she painted word pictures of the distant Dragonlands, her ancestral home beyond the impassable mountains, where dragons once soared free above crystalline spires and singing stones. Wynn fell in love with these stories, filling the spaces in her dreams of a paradise she had never seen but fervently recognized as home. The dreams shattered when human delegates began to arrive with their ultimatums, their eyes bright with avarice as they cataloged the valuable crystals embedded in every surface of the sacred cavern. Where the dragons saw a century of belonging, they saw resources to be harvested. Diplomacy quickly crumbled into violence. Adventuring parties probing deeper with each assault until the final day when steel ring against scale in the crystal-bright halls and Wynn made the choice that would define the rest of her life. As the last roar of the great dragon echoed through their home declaring defeat, Wynn gathered her brothers and lifted the dragon's most precious treasure, feeling its weight settle into her arms like destiny itself. Together they fled. Now, weeks into their flight towards the northern mountains, Wynn serves as a compass and conscience for her small band of survivors. When her brothers stumble with exhaustion, she reminds them of the dragon's stories, how the most beautiful stones bore the deepest scars, filled with veins of gold that made them stronger than they ever were whole. When despair clouds their amber eyes, she draws from the well of stories their protector shared, painting visions of the Dragonlands that wait just beyond the next ridge, the next valley, the next impossible climb. The egg pulses with warmth against her back, its occupant increasingly active as if sensing the approach of the homeland neither dragon nor kobold have seen, but all somehow remember. The road ahead is a difficult one, winding through a gauntlet of civilization. Ranger patrols thread the forest, merchant caravans snake down the roads, and the fortress watchtowers scan every approach to the mountain passes. Bandits claim the high roads, while pilgrims crowd the low ones, and somewhere among them all, military columns push the kingdom's borders ever outward, claiming the land in their wake. Wynn studies the sprawling tapestry of human ambitions spread below and feels no fear, only the quiet certainty that some promises transcend the reach of those who would break them. When the sun rises, they will step from shadow into the hostile heart of the civilized world. 3 small figures carrying a future toward a legacy they've only heard in stories. But Wynn has learned that sometimes stories are the strongest foundation of all.